In a long-anticipated matchup between what many consider to be the two best teams in basketball, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander stole the show with a complete offensive masterpiece. The Nuggets threw everything his way, and it still wasn't enough in what may have been the most complete performance of his entire career. The Nuggets went into this game with a clear defensive strategy, and that strategy can be broken down into 4 key components. Their main goal was to keep Shai from either getting to the middle of the floor or deep in the paint because that's where he's most dangerous. But they wanted to do so without letting anyone else get points in the paint, which meant they wanted to force OKC's role players to shoot a high volume of threes. The first ingredient of the strategy is what many call a matchup zone. Everyone has an individual matchup, but they're pulled into the middle of the floor to essentially box off the paint. This allows them to plug the gaps and shut off driving lanes, similar to what you're looking to do with an actual zone. Here's another example of what I'm talking about. As Shai turns the corner, both Murray and Pickett sink to the middle, which means that if the ball gets kicked out to Wallace, it creates a long closeout, forcing the rest of the defense into rotation, which leads to an open jumper for Chet. The second ingredient to their strategy is body angles. Anytime Shai looked to create, his defender angled his body to push the ball towards the sideline. Along with that help coming from the nail, again, they're looking to take away the middle. Of course, you can't just let him get baseline whenever he wants though, so the third component is to send the low man over to his side of the court early, meaning anytime he wanted to isolate, he was staring down a wall of defenders. On this one, he makes the best possible read with a skip pass to Wallace, who's left with a corner triple. The problem with using the low man as an aggressive help defender like this is that nobody in the league can stay in front of Shai, and knowing that, he could compromise the weak side defense pretty much at will, which led to tons of good opportunities for shooters. Denver's approach against ball screens was pretty similar. His defender's gonna push him into the side of the screen, where the big is waiting to close off the middle while the low man commits to the roll. They want Shai to make this pass to Kenrich because the alternative is that much more dangerous. To exploit these coverages, OKC opened up the second half with a series of staggered ball screens. Wallace's initial screen gives Shai room to turn the corner while Ihart dives to the rim. And now these two defenders are forced to make split-second decisions. Jokic can either drop back to his man or prioritize the ball. And if he steps up, the low man has to commit, which leaves Chet alone in the corner for a quality look from 3. So about 90 seconds later, when they ran the exact same play, Jokic opted to drop back and play the roll, meaning the low man could stay home, only for Shai to get to his signature bump midi. Then they set it up again next time down the court. On this one though, they decided to empty the weak side entirely to get rid of the low man. That makes Jokic's job that much tougher, because if he steps up to the ball, now Ihart's left with a layup. In hopes of avoiding this problem entirely, we saw the Nuggets ice a few ball screens, and if you're unfamiliar with the coverage, what that means is his defender's gonna push him to the sideline, where the big is lifted all the way up to the level of the screen to meet him immediately. On this one, Shai counters by splitting them with a shovel pass, which again compromises the weak side and leads to an open corner jumper. A consistent theme you'll notice is that the best way to break down these aggressive coverages is to get the ball to the opposite side of the court. As long as the low man's pulled way over, all it takes is that one skip pass to get them into rotation, although Kenrich Williams isn't able to capitalize on this advantage. The key here is that Shai was just taking what the defense gave him. If you're gonna force him baseline, he'll go baseline. And if you're gonna overcommit to the ball, he's gonna find the open man for a really good shot. But what makes Shai in particular such a special talent is that he's a good enough creator to get exactly what the defense doesn't want to give him. 30 seconds into the game, the Nuggets showed him their ice coverage against an empty side pick and roll, and what they want is for him to get rid of the ball early. Instead, he keeps his dribble live, uses that space to get around Jokic, and now the entire paint is collapsed with 3 good kickout options. He finds Wallace, who started off the scoring with 3 points. Even when they weren't icing the screen though, remember everything was built around keeping him away from the middle. Watson's on his left hip, Jokic is in his face. There's no way he can access that space near the elbow, is what I would say if he wasn't an absolute wizard with his live dribble. Here's one that starts in early isolation. Remember, his defender's gonna push him baseline while the low man comes over early. With a simple bump and counter spin, he finds his way to the front of the rim anyways. So something else the Nuggets tried when forcing him baseline and sending the low man early was having the closest help defender chase with a late double. There's no way he can possibly get to the basket now, but all it takes is a basic kick out to create an open 3 for their best shooter. The craziest part though is that even that much attention couldn't keep him away from the paint every time. Not only does he have the handle to navigate these double teams like he's toying with his food, he's got the body control to separate and step through, which once again collapses everyone and would have led to a wide open 3 had Kenrich not decided to pass it up. Here's another example from the second half. Shai uses his handle to set up Hardaway and pressure the middle of the floor, but with Watson parked in front, he's forced to pull back and reset, only to set up Hardaway before attacking the middle again, where he draws a foul and drops an impossible bucket. I'm not sure any other player in NBA history is capable of pulling off that sequence. The difficult shot making is what makes Shai pretty much immune to some of those coverages. Of course, the handle and change of speed is what gives him unlimited access to the paint, but when Denver makes it clear that they're going to commit every time, he can still get his game off by going over the top. So even on plays where the Nuggets do exactly what they're trying to do, pushing him away from the middle without giving up a paint touch, sometimes it just doesn't matter. Take this play from the fourth. OKC empties both wings and stacks the baseline so that he has the entire top of the key to work with. The paint is packed and Watson commits to the ball as soon as he drives, only for Shai to get a bucket regardless. And against 99.9% of players historically, this defensive possession is viewed as a huge win. You shut off the paint without leaving anybody open, and you forced a contested long two. The problem is that Shai is in that 0.1%, as these shots are like layups for him. If we define a long two as any 2-point shot outside of 14 feet, he's made about 53.5% of them on the season, which is the highest mark of any player attempting at least 2 of these shots a game. Against Denver, he attempted 6 of them, and he made all 6. Literal perfection. In addition to the long twos, defenses also have to worry about off-the-dribble threes now, as he's added those to his arsenal. And the overarching point is that no matter what the Nuggets tried to do, he could still access those pressure points where he burned them as both a scorer and passer. So with that in mind, they had to make a few adjustments to their coverage in hopes of making him get rid of the ball early. Remember that matchup zone I talked about, with help defenders overplaying the gaps in hopes of shutting off driving lanes? Well, in the second half, they switched it up and started having that closest defender commit to the ball with a late double, meaning that Shai's reads were a little bit different. As he comes down court and sets up in isolation, what he's doing is waiting to react to Jokic. If he stays home, it's a one-on-one. But as soon as he starts to double, it's an instant swing pass, forcing the weak side into rotation and leaving Wallace with another corner three. Here's one from a few minutes later. Shai gets the ball in the wing, and they empty that side of the court for him to isolate. You've still got the low man cheating over, but now they're doubling early, and Jalen Williams ends up knocking down a long-range jumper. The key for Shai during this second half was his patience. As he sets up the offense, he's just waiting to see what Peyton Watson's gonna do. Is it gap help, or is it a double? Then at the exact moment Watson steps up, it's a swing pass, then one more swing pass, and just like that, Chet's got a super efficient shot. Essentially, OKC's offense turned into a game of cat and mouse between Shai and the closest help defender. This time, Kenrich is going to come up to set a ball screen, but notice how he screens his own man, the help. So when Shai turns the corner, he's left with a runway to the paint, which is exactly what they wanted to avoid. So a play later, they set it up again. Wallace clears out to empty the left wing while Wiggins comes to set a ball screen. Only this time, Strouder jumps to the outside so he can't stay pinned, and now Watson has a decision to make. Does he switch, or does he commit to the ball? And Shai's job is to counter, resulting in an open 3 for Wiggins. Along with outright doubling the ball, another way the Nuggets tried to get it out of Shai's hands early was with a 1-3-1 zone. With one defender pressing up top and another 3 walling off the paint, there really isn't anywhere for him to go, and they can force other guys to have to make decisions off the dribble. But a zone creates an entirely different set of issues, and the Thunder exploited 2 of them. Firstly, the zone sort of works backwards in a sense, because if Shai starts away from the ball, he can use movement to access that space in the middle of the floor, which is exactly what the Nuggets wanted to avoid in the first place. Second, in a zone, you run the risk of constantly playing in rotation if the ball starts moving efficiently. And it might not look like Shai's doing much, but just his presence on the wing forces the entire defense to shift towards the ball, so all it takes is a couple quick swing passes to create another good look for Isaiah Joe. In my opinion, plays like that do a great job of highlighting the driving force behind Shai's value in a game like this. Denver's defense is so worried about his inside-the-arc shot creation that they're forced to go to extreme coverages by default, and for the most part, all it takes is basic passing reads to cause complete defensive breakdowns. I want you to think of OKC's offense like a row of dominoes. As soon as that initial domino gets toppled over, the rest fall into place. And the initial domino is the threat of Shai forcing Watson to linger in the middle of the floor. The second domino is Kenrich slipping. Shai finds him, the low man commits, Chet dives, and the end result is a layup. The impact of Shai serving as a first domino really stood out whenever he went to the bench because it simplified every aspect of the Nuggets coverage. Instead of complex help in matchup zones, it was just guard your yard. Nobody could create that downhill pressure, meaning no rotations, no ball movement, and worse shots. Screen coverages became real standard. If it was two wings, switch across the board. If Jokic was involved, let him drop back, go under, and make these role players create off the bounce. Now compare that to a play when Shai's on the court. Nobody's helping near the left elbow, so he uses that space to get downhill, which triggers a rotation from the low man and leaves Wallace with a much more comfortable shot. If we take one last look at Denver's defensive keys, it's kind of funny to think about the fact that they actually sort of worked. Although Shai got to the paint and to the middle of the floor a few times, for the most part they did a good job of keeping him out. And they did so while only giving up 30 points in the paint, which is well below OKC's season average of 51.4. Their goal was to make role players beat them from 3, and that's pretty much exactly what happened. Case and Wallace hit a career-high 7 3-pointers, which completely moved the needle and helped them create separation on the scoreboard. As a team, they shot 19 of 48, or just under 40% from 3, which isn't an outlier, but is enough to make them impossible to guard. And the reason for that is the way Shai picked apart the defense. They tried everything from a matchup zone to a real zone to multiple pick and roll coverages, double teams. You name it, they sent it his way. He responded with 34 points and 13 assists on 78% true shooting. Though, you could even make the argument that the box score undersells his performance. What about all of those plays where he served as the initial domino and didn't get credited with an assist? Or the plays where his presence on the court forced an abnormal coverage by default, allowing OKC's role players to get easy shots without having to do any work. It really felt like he didn't make an incorrect decision all night. He took what the defense gave him, then forced the issue at all the right moments. Along with hot shooting from role players, that's how the Thunder put up an unbelievable 145.7 offensive rating during his 33 minutes. When you're scoring like that as a team, it's nearly impossible to lose a game. All in all, Shai played close to a perfect game, and OKC's supporting cast delivered. So we'll have to see if Denver sticks to their guns, or if they try something different when they meet up again in a few weeks.